Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Thursday called on state governors to set aside political differences and collaborate with the federal government to build the nation. Tinubu made the call during the breaking of Ramadan fast with governors at the State House in Abuja. He also emphasized the importance of transitioning from politics to governance, noting the need for unity and cooperation among all stakeholders, and expressed optimism about the future of Nigeria.
If we recognize the needs to build the nation together, the process aspect of it is over. In terms of governance, is not. The framework is not as dark as when we started. We're very clear. I mean, don't be pressure and pressure.
All right, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu again sounding the right notes. But I don't think a lot of Nigerians will agree with the fact that things are getting brighter and brighter. Because in the meantime, terrorists who kidnapped over 250 students in Kaduna State have demanded 1 billion naira for their release. A spokesperson for the community, Jubril Aminu, said he received a call from the kidnappers on Tuesday, March 12th, demanding the ransom. The defense headquarters, on the other hand, on Thursday, attributed the delay in the rescue of abducted school children in Kaduna and Sokoto states to a late report of the incident to the response team in the affected communities. The Director of Defense, Media and Operations, Major General Edward Buba, made this known while briefing journalists on Thursday. He also noted that the hostages are being held in locations that are difficult to get to and described the terrorists as cowards.
The situation is, however, indicative of the desperation of these terrorists to avoid troops' onslaught by all means. You may recall that in recent times, troops have decimated several of the terrorist leaders, their commanders and their foot soldiers, and are fast closing in on several others. The terrorists have exhibited gross cowardice by going for such soft targets to impede troops' advances.
Well, all right, I think that the defense headquarters is right there, calling the terrorists cowards because, they kidnapped school children, young children between the ages of 5 and 7. They are real cowards, we would say that. But also, if you recall, last month, I believe Boderi Ishaku was one of the, terrorists that was neutralized in a gun duel, actually, in Kaduna State. So that was a win for, the federal government as well as the military. But people are asking, where are these young children? Let me pull up a map of Nigeria with this comment going around on WhatsApp. This person wrote, "This is the map of Nigeria showing the states and FCT. It is obvious from this map that Kaduna State is not on any part of Nigeria's international boundaries. It is landlocked. Where did the kidnappers pass through? And where did they go to after allegedly kidnapping 280 people? What this means is that these bandits are squarely inside our land space in Nigeria. How many bandits will it take to kidnap 300 people? How can such a group move with their victims without security operatives detecting them? Who is offering cover to these bandits and kidnappers? Nigeria, are we not sleeping on a time bomb that's already ticking?" Well, in the meantime, the governor of Kaduna State, Uba Sani, on Thursday, said that the kidnapped children from Kaduna were moved to neighboring states. He was speaking to State House correspondents after breaking the Ramadan fast with President Tinubu.
Most of these children that were kidnapped were moved to another neighboring states, in the case of Kaduna. So we had some good deliberation, and I have no doubt in my mind we will work together and towards the success of the return of the children by the grace of God.
All right, Uba Sani here is saying that these terrorists are not in Kaduna State. I guess he has intelligence report. In the meantime, Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, who was on our nightly news program Newsnight on Thursday, called on the federal government to use non-kinetic measures to negotiate with the terrorists, insisting that the government knows who they are.
The government and everybody knows their leader. In fact, there's a book, I Am a Bandit, by one Murtala, an academician. He listed more than 160 bandit leaders. We know their leaders by their names, but you don't know their foot soldiers. You don't know them, all of them. So you just know their leaders. You don't know the foot soldiers. So if you don't know the foot soldiers, how can you be fighting? They can just come in as civilians into the town and go out as and then fight you back. We need to look at this seriously. It's more than just meeting in Abuja. It's more than that. We have to drop to the field locally and see how things can be moved. And one thing, what I realized, the government is not ready to spend money on non-kinetic, but it's ready to spend trillions and trillions on the kinetic aspect. And you know who benefits from that? Non-kinetic is the victim, the victims and the bandits that will benefit from the social program by building schools, building hospitals. But when you put money in the military, it is our generals, unfortunately, to say that that benefit.
Well, Sheikh Ahmad Gumi here, we all know that he's always called for non-kinetic measures to, for the federal government to also negotiate with the bandits. He was on our show yesterday. He did also say that he does not agree with the payment of ransom. But you heard him there, Ayo, saying that the military, we all know who these terrorists are. But, he's saying that they don't know their foot soldiers. But at this point, that comment I read from that map of Nigeria in Kaduna State, where we know that these people are a lot in a landlocked area. Where are our children?
Okay, that's why we keep saying that there must be some form of complicity. There are certain questions that must be asked when it comes to banditry and the fact that it hasn't been contained yet. We keep hearing, especially from retired generals, that this issue can be contained. It can be dealt with. It is possible. However, we keep seeing that despite the amount of money allocated, ransom paid in the past, we haven't made any headroad. The first thing I can mention is Kaduna being landlocked. Very fantastic observation. We've asked the question here, and from reports for people who were on ground that day, that a number of bandits came. They surrounded the school. So they were not a few gentlemen or a few men. They were huge in number. And then they came on motorcycles, and then they abducted about over 200 pupils and teachers, and they made their way out of that vicinity with a military formation or military from just 30 minutes away from there. And what we're hearing is that they weren't informed on time, knowing that these areas are key areas. They're areas that have been, that have experienced attacks in the past. One would imagine that already there would be things in place, or the military would make provisions in place to ensure that that place is fully secure. That wasn't the case. In addition to that, who is sponsoring these terrorists? Who is giving them the weapons, the sophisticated weapons that they have? How do they have the temerity to demand 1 billion naira and then even be generous with the number of days to pay? It means that there's no confidence that they'll be apprehended within the time limit. Because if you know that there are people on your who are chasing you, you would say within 24 hours, 48 hours, because you know that they are hot on your chase. But even the generosity of time, it means in 21 days, we still expect that we'll still have these children with us, or these captive. That's a big statement there. If we're not looking at that. That the fact that they have the confidence and the boldness to ask for such amounts of money with a long term. I'm hoping that the Nigerian military or our security agents will take this challenge. Yes. What we're looking forward to is enough with these recommendations, talks, closed door meetings, open door meetings, and the likes. Let us see action. That's what we are looking forward to. Right. I do subscribe to both kinetic and non-kinetic. I don't think it should be non-kinetic alone, because I think that this must be responded with force. We have to calm down very hard on these bandits. But also, he makes a very solid point. Even though I don't like saying that he makes a solid point. But I mentioned that earlier. We must address the issues underlying poverty, lack of education, lack of awareness. We must engage the locals. We must engage traditional and religious rulers and leaders in the states, and ensure that they have a buy-in to know that we are protecting our people. Absolutely. It doesn't make any sense when it comes to intelligence, information. You must engender goodwill and engender their trust as well, because there's also a trust deficit. Build schools. Let the people not be languishing in poverty, making it attractive to be recruited by these bandits. So both very important, but not one without the other. I like the point that you made, actually, Ayo, when you talked about the culprits must be brought to book. Remember when this incident happened in Kaduna State, we were asking, what happened to the kidnappers that took our Chibok girls? Yes. What
was the sanction? What was the punishment? Who are they? Well, in the meantime, the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has likened the spate of kidnappings in Nigeria to war. Remi Tinubu was speaking during a visit by senators representing the 3 senatorial districts of Lagos to the presidential villa on Thursday. She also reiterated her call for capital punishment on kidnappers.
I think we can make stiffer laws. We have to really, it's like we're at war. That's what it is, because there are various things that would lead to something. We're at war with all these people coming to pick our children. Yeah. So I want to see the National Assembly taking a more robust stand that this has to be capital punishment should be in place, and I'm not mixing words with that, because people who will take your children is like taking your heart. So for a mother, and why are you taking the children? To me, it's something that we have to look into, and also look into how we can help our people to ameliorate these times. But there are better days ahead. But my advice is, I don't want people to get used to handouts.
All right, the First Lady there has called for capital punishment for kidnappers. The president also said that, the federal government was not going to pay a dime to the kidnappers. Let me take a reaction before I come to both of you. This is from Kenny, who wrote, "It is time Nigeria take a really tough stand against ransom payment. Our country will fall more into a fragile state if ransom payment continues. Nigerians should accept that we are at war against Boko Haram terrorists and all other bandits who demand ransom to fund their crime. Like in every war, sacrifices will be made, while structural approach is taken to eliminate attackers who refuse to stop. Members of the Nigerian Army, police, who have interests in kidnap activities in any form, whether directly or by providing support, should know that their days are numbered." I love that tweet, Dr. Bati Rufai. I don't know who wants to go first. The fact that, the federal government has said that they are not going to pay ransom. I mean, I don't know if this is just lip service at this point, because there are children out there as well.
Now,
right.
Under the Buhari administration, we saw the federal government of Nigeria adopting a policy of reconciliation, rehabilitation, whereby the government was sewing uniforms for terrorists and bandits and keeping them in rehabilitation camps, and claiming that these people will be reintegrated into society and that they will become good citizens. That strategy did not work. I think many Nigerians will be glad to hear from President Tinubu speaking like the commander-in-chief that he is, that the ecosystem of criminality must not be condoned either by the payment of ransom or by the rehabilitation, so-called, of terrorists and bandits. So President Tinubu, is right on that in that regard. I agree with him. In the same manner in which I agree with Senator Oluremi Tinubu that there should be stiffer penalties for terrorists, people who have shown that the milk of human kindness does not flow within them, and that they are ready to make money from the violation of other people's dignity. And she was challenging the 3 senators from Lagos State who visited her, Senator Abiru, Senator Wasiu Eshilokun, and Senator Adebule. Now, what I expect the 3 senators to do, either collectively or individually, is to follow up on Mrs. Tinubu's charge, to go and ask for further amendments of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act of 2022, to have stiffer penalties for terrorists and bandits. President Tinubu, while he was having the iftar with the visitors, the governors, said that, well, things are getting better.
Brighter and brighter.
Yes, that the cloud is clearing, this and that. Well, I don't know what he means by that. That's one part of it, that of his statement, that I disagree with. Because if you were earning 1 million naira in July 2023, that your 1 million naira now will be less than 400,000 naira.
Absolutely.
So how do you tell Nigerians that things are brighter and brighter? People are suffering from a pandemic of empty pockets, of epidemic proportions. So I mean, that's the only part of it that I think the president was exaggerating this thing about hope. The governor of Kaduna State, Ubasani, was saying that the bandits have been relocated away from Kaduna State. How did he know that? And if they were relocated from Kaduna State, 287 persons, is it that in the whole of Kaduna State that is facing serious crisis of insecurity, that there are no checkpoints?
Buba,
the governor needs to come back to us to tell us, you know, where they were relocated to. As for Major General Buba, where he has a security person, what he said, if I read him correctly, is that the bandits, the abducted persons have been taken to difficult locations, but that it's not, such locations are not out of reach. I don't expect him as a trained security chief to come to the public and say, this is where they are located. That's not their training. Right. That's not the way they are trained. But he gave details of, you know, the efforts that they are making, how they have been able to decimate the ranks, and he gave specific details. I like that, you know, in terms of defense headquarters, giving an account to the Nigerian people. But he then over-exaggerated the matter when he said the bandits, the terrorists, as he calls them, know that we mean business. General, sorry, I don't think that they know that you mean business. Otherwise, you know, they will not have this level of impudence. They will not have this level of temerity. The military, they've done a lot. Yes, we keep thanking them. But if the message is getting to the terrorists, they will not have the courage to keep abducting people one state to the other, you know, with such frequency. Yeah. That means there's a lot more that needs to be done. Whether they call it kinetic or non-kinetic, the residual point is that the Tinubu government must back up the president's promises with the political will. Yes. And that political will must be demonstrable and must be measurable. For us, the people of Nigeria, who sit here every morning to analyze the issues, almost to the point of saturation, to be able to come back and say that, well, President Tinubu, we have seen the measurable, demonstrable evidence of political will. Yeah. And it will be our duty to say so. All right, Rufai.
So as for President, and you know, happy Ramadan to all of our Muslim brothers. And I know this season is one of supplication and intense reflection for them. And it's something we should all embrace, what Ramadan preaches, peace and unity. I think it's in that spirit President Tinubu was dealing in hope. I'm sure when he was saying things were getting better, maybe he was singing a song in his mind. Things are getting better.
Right, nursery rhyme.
For the Lord is on the throne. Things are getting better. Things are getting better. I am going higher. So I'm sure that's what he was probably singing. But reality is different. Yeah. Our currency has been greatly devalued. The standard of living has plummeted. Insecurity is on the high since he came in. All the indices look like things are getting worse. Even the business sector. Yes, there's been some gains, but there've been more losses than gains. We cannot deceive ourselves. So as regards that, the president didn't get it right. But if he was singing the song, things are getting better, probably yes. I know it's a song of hope and optimism. But secondly, as regards the insecurity, so there are a couple of ideas I'm going to throw out there. Number one will be, I get the slant of Sheikh Gumi as regards the problems on ground. Those problems had not been there, had not been there today. They've been there for a while. In fact, I will link them to industry. There was an assessment done as regards the shutdown of the textile factories in the north back in the days and the direct effects and the correlation on the insecurity. So once empowerment and businesses started to shut down and industries that employed a large amount of people, then you started to have a rise of insecurity. And the first point of this shutdown was the early 80s when the economy started to plummet. And that's when you had the first major riots, the Metisani riots. In fact, the study was done then that indicated that the reason for that riot was because of the economic situation. So this problem dates back to many years. Yeah. You are just having fertile ground every day in children's at Almajiri and everything. So I think I get the analogy of the argument of let's bring back empowerment to that area. And it goes back to these lawmakers.
Let's bring back empowerment. That's from Sheikh Gumi.
Yes.
He's saying they should negotiate. Yeah.
Yes. it goes back to the analogy of the lawmakers. Okay, all the money we collected in constituency project, what have they been doing with it?
Exactly.
One lawmaker that couldn't dare talk on TV how much he collected, and he's been a lawmaker for so many years there. So what have they been doing with this money? They will argue with you, if it's not because of what they've been doing, things should be way worse. But the truth has to be said. The politicians in those areas have failed. So how can we speedily bring empowerment back without also stealing the money with government bureaucracy? We've set up a Northeast Development Commission. What has that done? We allocate money to the Northeast Development Commission. How well has that helped? Okay. Secondly, the war economy, a lot of people are benefiting from it. And look at it. Do you want to calculate how much has been collected in ransom in the last 10 years in this country? That money should be a sizable part of Nigeria's budget. God knows how much will be paid. We don't support payment of ransom, but in the end, these things get paid. I mean, the Kankara kids, it was a quid pro quo. Let's not deceive ourselves. As we speak now, conversations are going on.
But these
bandits, and when you extend the conversation further, was there not a state in this country that former bandit people are people that are close to government? Were there not states in this country that the governor did a photo op with bandits? Are they not the same people that politicians use to execute elections? So when you look at this trail of how it comes around, everybody, elite class, should watch it. Right. Because we might pick a lot of people up. So are we ready to really flush out those people? Because it will come back to them. Right. Secondly, the force part of it. Yes, we can use force. But the truth about using force is, if you don't solve those prevalent problems that made those young people be recruited for terrorists in the first place, then your force will be a force that you just use and miss. It's not today people have been using force.